Hello and welcome to week 3 of Handpanery. This week we're going to look at some of the more tricky, small ins and outs of actually playing, creating different textures, using your hands in different ways. So we're going a little bit more in depth. Just a reminder that if you want any of the notation for this series, it's available for paid subscribers over on Patreon. So let's dive right in. We're going to look at some split hand stuff. I'm going to give you a little rundown of how to actually correctly rotate in order to avoid injury and keep you playing for a long time. And then I will introduce a nice little exercise to practice that split hand technique. So by split hand, I mean splitting your hand into two parts, two separate drumsticks, if you will. One part is this side of your hand here, and the other is this side. Or you could split it this way, live long and prosper. But whatever happens, when I think about it, and you can think about it in different ways depending on which finger you're using, but in this instance, if we're going to use this finger to strike and this finger to strike, then I think of my middle finger as the pivot point, and I'm going to pivot, rotate on that middle finger, keeping that where it is, twisting the wrist, like so. And you can practice that motion all the way up top, all the way around, up top, all the way around, treating that middle finger as the pivot point. And the same with the other hand as well. So this is kind of the baseline and the general rule for any kind of motion where you're rotating. Obviously the shifting point just changes a little bit. Say you might use your thumb and your middle finger, which we've explored before already this month, if you're using two different notes. So your pivot point might actually be this finger instead, right? But if you're going to use today, like as we're going to do today, your index finger and your ring finger, then the pivot point shifts, right? So this is just giving you that dexterity and that ability to use your hand in all those different ways. And all we're going to do is practice striking the ding with your index finger. So starting up here, moving down and out, your index strikes and then continues. You let that momentum bring you back down. So now your hand is coming down and this way, in towards the instrument. And you strike with your index. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out. This is with my right hand. And you want to be aiming to strike in exactly the same spot every time. If you find that you're striking in a slightly different spot, so you're kind of towards the left of the ding and the right of the ding, that means you're not rotating enough. That means you're basically striking up and down with a little bit of a push this way. You need to rotate enough that you're striking in the same spot every time. And don't forget to practice as well with your non-dominant hand. So if with my left I'm striking with my index, I start with my palm facing up, rotate down, strike in the center of the ding, continue that momentum this way. Obviously I'm completely exaggerating this movement, but this is a good place to start. Then I come down, get that ring finger ready, strike in the middle of the ding, continue that momentum. And it's like you're creating this like U shape with a more precise, almost like a V shape, I guess. But instead of straight up and down, you're curving it just a little bit with that little spike at the bottom where you strike. Oops. Now, I am also engaging the finger just a little bit so that all my fingers don't scrape across the instrument. So in order to avoid this swishy motion, I am lifting and using the individual finger like a little mini drumstick as well, and then striking down. But then I do immediately relax, and you'll notice that all of my other fingers are very, very relaxed. I'm not holding my hand out like this. I'm keeping it all really relaxed. My wrist is loose, nice and high above the instrument. Engaging the finger you to practice that, to get to know that a little bit. And then what we're going to do is introduce a small exercise just to get you used to this motion. So once you've practiced each hand individually, I then invite you to bring both hands to the pan. One hand will be on the ding, one hand will be on a note. I like to keep it comfortable and use a note directly towards either side of the instrument, so my hands are kind of the same distance from my body. But I recommend practicing on both sides, so both hands get used to the different shapes of the instrument as well, different subtleties in the shape. What we're going to do is strike both hands together so you can really feel the difference between both of the hands. Usually one hand feels a bit weaker, a bit less controlled than the other. So if we practice with both hands together, then we can kind of mirror what the dominant hand is doing and get them both up to speed. Remembering to strike in the same spot every time. Engaging the finger for that nice strong sound. Still getting a nice bounce and not stroking the instrument. Nice. And so from here, we'll do a little beat division exercise, a little bit like the very first Handpan lesson that we did, but not as intense. We're just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So we start with ones, then we add the ands, then we add the e's and the us, and we're creating this mountain shape. Come back with the ands, down to the ones again. And then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Let's try that to a metronome, shall we? So, here we go. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. Ready, off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a down to ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2, whoops, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and relax those hands, relax those wrists, aiming for the same spot with each finger. Relax the shoulders. Breathe. Relax the elbows. And now you can try on the other side of the instrument. So now my left hand is on the ding, my right hand on the note. Just to feel that different shape. And we'll stop it there. Nice. So this is a good warm-up exercise for any practice, regardless of where you are in your journey. just to kind of bring it back to the basics of how this rotation is actually working, making sure you're striking in the right place. We're just going to do this one more time, but this time, instead of bouncing from the instrument, we're going to purposefully mute the instrument. Like so. What this is good for is practicing a little bit more strength in your strike. This really will warm you up. You'll find yourself getting a little bit more tired. But my invitation for you is to try and get a nice strong sound even though you're muting it, without putting too much power into it that you're harming the instrument. Right? You want a nice, firm, strong sound for this one. All right, let's try it. Ready, 1, 2, off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And we can switch each time if we like. Trying to maintain that rotation even with the more downwards muting. Really feel how you have to change the way that you play in order to not get that swish, still get a strong muted sound. Alright, last 2. Ready for the last round, here we go. You can see as you start to speed it up that this huge rotation starts to get smaller and smaller. We still have the intention of moving in that direction, but as you move a little bit faster, you can't literally make it all the way there, right? But if I were to continue in the motion that I'm making, that's where it would go. In a couple of videos time, we're gonna actually have a look at accenting, using different muted tones, open tones within that split hand technique, so we'll get a little bit more deeper into it. But in the meantime, I invite you to really hone that, practice that every day if you can, just to get used to this motion so it doesn't feel so alien to you. And you'll find that over time, this actually will be more comfortable of a strike than the regular strike, especially for as we start to speed things up, you start to implement some different fills and that kind of thing. This is going to keep you playing for longer. It's going to give you more stamina, make sure that you tire out less quickly, because you can get double the amount of strikes in one motion, right? So practice that, and I will see you tomorrow.